Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jarrell Mason, aka Jay Mason. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Album Cover, where we get inside the entertainment industry with those in the know and giving them their flowers while they're here to be celebrated. With me right now, I have no stranger to the podcast, Mr. Soul Effect, back in the building of R&B Soul Effect TV. Welcome back again, bro.
Well, hey man, glad to be back, man. I can't believe it. What's been like about like what like 5, 6 months ago or something like that?
Yeah, it's been a good minute, man, and I'm still waiting on my Grippo chips and some of those other Kentucky delicacies, bro.
Hey man, I put like this, man. You know, like when you come to Louisville, man, I got you, bro.
All right, bet. I'm gonna definitely have to take you up on that when I go visit the Bluegrass State. So I brought you back onto the podcast because we're gonna talk about a landmark album that this year turns 40, best-selling album of all time, second best-selling album in the US. Only number one was the Eagles' greatest hits, but Michael Jackson's Thriller, the impact that this album has made, not only in the recording industry, but in the world cannot be matched again. And we're going to talk about the history of this album, the legacy of this album, track by track analysis, and just have a good time just talking shop. So, when was the first time that you heard Thriller?
Man, the first time I heard Thriller, my mother told me, well, I had to be like well, about like 1 years old, but I won't say the first time I heard it, but I was about like 3 years old the first time. Cause at that time, man, in the '80s, dude, you could not go nowhere without hearing, Michael Jackson's album Thriller at that time. Besides Bad, I mean, it was just like he was a social media before social media at that time, and I instantly became a fan of Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was about right around the same age, 1 to 3 years old, when I first heard Thriller. It was after Bad was released in '87, so I had to go back and dig deep. But just to think about how that album produced seven singles, all of them hit the Billboard top 10. And I think one of the things that Michael, along with Quincy Jones, did very well was sequencing, and they had the ability to have most of their songs on those albums be strong to where it was take your pick. It was going to be a lead single and it was going to be a hit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Because I mean, dude, I mean to have three number one R&B hits and what like three number one Hot 100s in a couple of top 10 Hot 100 singles and stuff, man. I mean that album, man. I mean it's crazy. Here it is, man. 40 years later, that album still resonates. And it's like no matter how many albums Michael did after that, greatest hits, whatever, that album stays in flow rotation. And here it is, man. The album number one. I forgot what I think it was Apple Music or something like that. But the album, man, still kicking ass more than albums, man, that's been around for a short period of time.
Right. And let's set the stage for the listeners and viewers for what the music industry was like pre Thriller's release. The music industry was in a recession or getting ready to go into a recession at the time. Black artists were only regulated to R&B radio. Rarely did it get any pop airplay. And while Off the Wall, which was released in '79, was a critical success, commercially, Michael felt that that album underperformed. And I believe he was mad at the fact that it really didn't get the pop reach that he felt it should have gotten because it was regulated to the R&B soul categories at the major awards. And his primarily motivation for Thriller was to make an album that would cross over.
Yeah. And people don't realize at that time, black artists was segregated because only time you see a black artist on a white platform was like American Bandstand and the Johnny Carson talk show and Michael Douglas and stuff like that. And and at that time, black artists was limited to even do that. And around that time, I want to say because when Video Soul, came on, BT was already out first, but Video Soul came out like in '83, and there wasn't MTV wasn't trying to put no black artists on their station and stuff. And then at that time, when Thriller came out, it's crazy. When the album got pushed, Michael thing was like, how can I get on there and stuff? That's when that's when that song "Beat It" came out, and it just took off, man. Next, you had Prince, you had everything else, blowing up. But what was so weird about that, man? it's like you had a black VJ that worked for MTV, and he didn't do nothing about it, man.
The
You
late
know?
JJ Jackson. And I had a chance to interview Nina Blackwood and asked her that very question about MTV's lack of black artists during that time period. And it was pretty much stated that, MTV was pretty much modeling themselves after AOR Radio, Amorian Rock, or Top 40, because a lot of those DJs that came on to MTV as VJs during the early years had experiences in those formats. So typically the R&B side of things wasn't really looked at until pressure came in from certain label heads. And I don't know if you've seen the archival interview with David Bowie getting interviewed by Mark Goodman. He was grilling him about
Yeah,
MTV's lack of black artists on their platform, and pretty much he gave the company line answer saying, well, MTV is only catering to this demographic. Somebody in the Midwest is going to be terrified of Prince. And then let us not also forget Rick James bringing it up in various industry trades about how MTV's lack of exposure for black artists was like apartheid, where you're on the back of the bus and the only exposures black artists were getting at the time was from either your regional video shows that showcased R&B artists, BET, and later on VH1, which played more R&B artists than MTV before everybody else
right.
over there got on board.
Yeah, because if you do see a black artist, on a white station, it'd be like 12 o'clock at midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it is a trip, because my thing is like, you create a network, you create this platform, and you want the worldwide audience to watch what you're doing, but you're not pleasing them to give what they want. My thing like is, okay, that's cool, we got the rock, but what about R&B? What about folk? What about jazz? And it is crazy, man. To this day, because I remember when Bill Bellamy was hosting MTV, and they was trying to remove R&B and hip hop up out of there, and artists was thanking Bill Bellamy, man, for keeping the videos on MTV, premiering it and stuff like that. And it's crazy, man. How the network was. Because my thing like this, they want the black dollars, they don't want no black artists on their network, and to me, that's a pretty slap in the face. So I'm glad that Michael and everybody, broke down the doors for that, man, because I think, I guess it came to realization, like, what, if we keep doing this, then, if MTV never allowed it, MTV would never even exist to this day. It'll be the network that pretty much came and went. But I think, what came to realization for them was like when they premiered Thriller, then that's when they started making that money. It just took off like the way it did, man. And
Right.
it helped a lot of artists in between.
And let's talk about how big an event that was the world premiere of Thriller. It was to where if you missed it the initial time, they aired it several times throughout the evening. Then it later got into heavy rotation, and then they aired the behind the scenes of the video, which added even more hype to the video, and it changed the way music videos were made because it was a short film basically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, at that time, it was about like 25% of, well, like, let me narrow it down. I want to say maybe like 15% black artists were doing videos, but it was like more like 85% of black artists that was doing singles, but they were shooting videos. And then by the time Michael was doing videos and stuff, it pretty much helped, it pretty much motivated artists to go their route. But the record labels realized, like, look, we gotta start shooting videos. We just can't just put out singles. It's not like how it is now with the internet. You just put out singles and stuff, ain't worry about no video. Back then, in order to sell, you had to, put something out there and stuff. And Michael changed the game, because if it was for Michael Jackson create a short film, all these artists would never be creative like that, man. And Michael was ahead of his time. But anyway, but running back to Thriller, it was different, man, because even though that was a short film, it felt like a 2-hour movie and stuff about a man and a woman. And he had a secret, that he want to tell her. He loves the girl he's with, but he's like, I'm not this nice guy, wants to moon rises and stuff. I'm something else. It was actually a werewolf. But at that time, man, when Thriller came out, dude, that bad boy, man. I mean, you could not go nowhere, man, without seeing it. I mean, when MTV premiered it, BT premiered it, VH1 wasn't around yet. That came out like in '86 or something like that. But at that time, man, I mean, dude, he was like all over the place, man. I mean, they had Michael in was it like the stamps, like you mail off your mail and stuff. They had him in that. Time magazine. I mean, he was everywhere, man. And a short film like that, man, took things to a whole different level. And yeah, man, it's crazy, man. That I mean, I put it this way: if we would have had an internet back then, everything would have froze for months because of that.
Yeah, that definitely would have been a when the internet broke moment, along with him doing the moonwalk for the first time at Motown 25. Now, the video was directed by John Landis, who directed American Werewolf in London. And within the video, you had three of the corpses. They were integrating, popping, and locking, because this was right around the time when hip hop was still in its infancy, and a lot of people still saw it as a fad. And this is where, you got to give Michael credit, where he saw the elements of hip hop, the dancing, and said, let me incorporate this, bring it to a mass audience, because there were dancers that were doing it before him, the moonwalk, which was called the backslide at the time, primarily Jeffrey Daniels, formerly of Shalimar, was doing that over there. And then when Michael learned it from him and some of the other street dancers, he perfected it. And then, like I said earlier, Motown 25, people were like jaw dropped because they never seen the street being brought to the masses like that.
Yeah, because Michael be the first artist to have Crips and Bloods in his video and stuff. I think it was more Crips, and I think it was like a sprinkle of Bloods in this video. And because it's one thing, he could have easily got some dancers to play some gangsters, but at the same time, it's like if you try to get some dancers to play gangsters, and they're like, nah, like they look too feminine, you know what I'm saying? So, and if you want that street life and stuff, you want this and that, then you got to bring some tough guys who look street. So Michael did right bringing, the actual Crips in the video and stuff, and that pretty much changed the culture of the game, because when you look at this short, look at that video, it looks so realistic, you know what I'm saying? And Michael's vision at that time, man, he was so far ahead of his time. He want not just the music to be what it is, he want the videos to be on point, to make it feel realistic. You know what I'm saying? Like you're watching some movie clip and stuff, and you want to rewind it so many times. And Michael was ahead of his time, man. And artists at that time wasn't even thinking like that. All they think about was write a good song and keep it moving. Michael, he was a visionary, man, because we look at his videos that he put his work in for Blame It on the Boogie with his brothers. That was the Kickstarter of it. All that, special effects and everything, all that was what to come, and that's what incorporated what he done for his solo years. But yeah, man, Beat It, man. Even though it's just a story and stuff, but looking at it, make you feel like, like, dang, like what's going to happen next? And, to have a video to have you on his toes, that's saying a lot, man.
Right. Really is. Right. In the Beat It video, I believe we have cameos from Soul Train dancer Cheryl Song, and also Michael DeLorenzo, who was on Fame at the time. He was a dancer who appeared in other videos like Alexander O'Neal's Fake. He later went on to Fame playing Eddie Torres in New York Undercover.
Yep. Yeah, man, it's crazy, man, because there was a lot of stars in that video, man. Because when I was a kid, I didn't really pay attention to it, but looking back, I'm like, hey, they just sure was in there. This was in the video. And oh God, what's his brother's name, man? He used to imitate Michael Jackson all the time, but this brother name, he's an actor too. His name was Stoney Jackson. He had that Jerry curl kind of.
Oh like yeah, I know you're talking about. He was on 227, Angels in the Outfield, and I forgot the name of the movie, but Dan Hartman did the song "I Can Dream About You," which was off the soundtrack of that movie.
Yep, he was in that, man. And at those times, and people don't realize, people was trying to find work. It's like if you're a Soul Train dancer and stuff, And back then you had agencies, coming to these platforms and, looking for talent and stuff. And people was looking for some active work, for some checks. People getting paid, doing videos, going on tour and stuff. And people don't realize Soul Train never paid. I mean, the only you get off of that was a KFC chicken and a can of pop, a can of soda. That's it. So that's all you gonna get from there. But yeah, man. But running back to Thriller, I'm gonna tell you what's so funny about that. I was telling my girlfriend about this. Looking at Thriller, it looks so intense, man. Every scene looks so intense, man. Like you feel like something's gonna happen because even as a kid, it just the energy that Michael had and Ola Ray had, and the people that was involved into it, man. I mean, you would never see a short film that looks so intense like that. And even though you love it, but you feel like something's gonna happen, and then when it does, it just takes us to a different level, man. I'm going to tell you this too, man. You probably peeped it out. They had that 4K version of Michael Jackson Thriller, where they like they edit the screen, make it look more like it just happened recently.
Right.
Yeah, when I saw that, man, that tripped me out, man. I said, wow, man, that screen looked more clearer and stuff. And it didn't say they forbid it. And I said, if Michael was alive, man, he would love this whole digital era and stuff.
Yeah, definitely that, because of course back then everything was only standard definition, and this was probably before most TVs went to stereo, where you were still on mono. So the technological advancements in between the 40 years from the making of the album and those videos to now can
Right.
really bring to life the vision that Michael had for that album and for those videos. Because if you look at music videos prior to what was released from Thriller, it was to where the artist would just go shoot a video. There was no concept, no story, no nothing. Michael sat down and made sure that I want this video to tell a story.
Yeah, because if you think about it, man, like for like the late 70s, and then by the time the early 80s, when before Thriller came out, artists was like they would shoot a video, it'd be like on a stage, or like the background be all black and stuff, and you see little special effects here and there. You don't really see a whole lot, and art people was used to seeing that. But I think after a while, Mike was kind of like, what I did was cool to rock with you. Don't stop till you get enough, and she's out of my life. But I think what really took the iceberg when he did "Can You Feel It." That's when he was like, what? When I do my album, it's gonna be out of this world, and that's what he did to make it look more, have more substance into it, make it look more realistic, without being corny and stuff. And you would never see nothing like that, man.
Right, and we also got to factor in too. He had the muscle behind him with Epic and Columbia, and he was getting those pop dollars. Where if you were just regulated into the R&B department, your budget was going to be smaller than what the pop department was getting, which therefore played a role into what you could do with a video, and it could kind of sort of limit your reach in a way as well.
Yeah, because it's crazy because when the album was selling, by the time that short film came out, CBS/Epic Records, they had to produce out more copies of that album because people was buying them up, man, left and right and stuff. And then for an album to go number one for 37 weeks from February 83 up until what was it, January 84 or something like that, man, that's incredible, man. I mean, for the album to do what it did, and then on top of that, man, for the album to break so much records, and that's when labels had to realize, whatever album takes off, we got to keep printing out copies. We just can't just print out $500,000. We got to keep keep it going because then it was a big deal, man. And I'm glad that Michael titled it Thriller, because had we would have titled it Starlight, I don't think that album would have done what it's supposed to do. It probably been a commercial flop. It probably would have. I believe that it wouldn't live up to what we see today and stuff.
Right, and then let's back up for a quick minute. For like I said, Off the Wall came out in '79. He was despondent about it only getting R&B appeal, not the crossover appeal, and Rolling Stone refused to run a cover on him at that time because their mindset was black artists don't sell magazines. Black artists don't cross over to pop. And then once Thriller hit and it became the hit that it became, you had to respect that album. But I want to talk about now the secret sauce of that
Right.
album. This one person that I think music heads, you know who he is. General public may not know who he is, and that's the late great Rod Temperton from Heatwave.
Yeah, because I tell you, man, to this day, Rolling Stones, man, they still racist because no matter how good a black artist when they produce albums out, they always want to see give it 1.5 stars or 2.5 stars, trying to make it look good. But here it is, let it be a white artist, they give it four straight stars or 5 stars. Call it, oh man, this is the greatest album since Elvis Presley and this and that, this and that. And to me, it's a pure slap in the face, man. It's like you want the black people to buy your magazine, but you won't put a black artist on the cover and stuff. Here it is, off the wall, man. That album sold 20 million fucking copies worldwide, man. And then for you guys, man, to now put them on the cover, that's a pretty slap in the face and stuff. Because even though we had our freedom, because freedom they really set into like 72. That's what we had. That's when we finally had a freedom. We got a chance to go places where we want to go with. It wasn't no, okay, blacks only here, whites only there. So we was able to go wherever you want to go with. But yeah, because when the 80s came in, that's when everything was started slow to get free. Because 70s was based off what 60s left off it. And for Michael, he was determined. Instead, he'll be like, okay, I just go ahead and keep it moving. Michael's like, nah, man, you're not about to sit here and belittle me. You guys, so I'm gonna make sure my foot's in the door.
Mhm.
And that's
Right.
the truth.
Right. And then also, too, Walter Yetnikoff, who was the head of Columbia Epic CBS at the time, played hardball with MTV and said, hey, you don't play Michael, I'm pulling every last video from the library off the roster until you do.
Yeah, man. They got that much power like that, man. Because, my thing like this, like no matter what you create, it's always somebody over you could shut you down just like that. They had no choice and stuff. Because if it wasn't for Michael Jackson, it would be no MTV, your MTV raps. It definitely would be no Club MTV, none of that. Because Michael, he was, and people don't realize this too. Michael took pride in who he was as a black man. He was, proud of who he was as a person. But Michael wanted to make sure that our people, had a gateway in to open those doors for a lot of it and stuff. Because if it wasn't for him, Whitney Houston never got plays like that. His little sister Janet would never got that type of love. New Edition, Mike Brown, the list goes on and stuff. Michael really opened a lot of doors, man. But they don't want to give our people credit of what we create.
Yeah,
Here it is, man. We created rock and roll, but they don't want to recognize that. We created country. They don't want to recognize that. We created all these other platforms besides R&B. They don't want to give us our due. It's like, how you going to have rock and roll, but you going to put no black artists on there? And we created that, man. That's a pure slap in the face.
Definitely a pure slap in the face. And Michael knew the game. And he wanted to make sure everybody that came behind him knew the game too. So that way you don't get jerked.
Facts, because, that's what I like about Michael. He was ahead of his time, man. He definitely was. He don't get the type of credit he deserved and stuff because, when you create something, our people love it. And then the other side be like, that's not good enough. And maybe the bad part about it, even our people today would try to bandwagon it off, and they'd be like, no, that's not good enough. No matter what you do for our community, it's never good enough. And they will try to find ways to, slander you for all the wrong reasons and stuff. And my thing like is what tripped me out about MTV, like how can you sit here, go from Michael Jackson Vanguard Award to only saying MTV Vanguard? Now keep that as Michael Jackson. Because you can sit here trying to erase whatever, but you can't erase what that man brought to your table. And he made y'all money, he made everything. And that's a pure slap in the face. But yeah, but running back to Thriller, man, I tell you, dude, when it comes to having conversations with, the greatest albums of all time from a black artist, Thriller's always in a conversation. You can't have a conversation without mentioning Thriller. You know, you don't have to be the biggest fan of Michael Jackson, but you got to talk about that. It's like if it was for Thriller, it would be no Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel. It would be no Usher Confessions. Even Janet was inspired by her brother, you know, to be creative and make the type of music what she's doing today and stuff. You know, the list goes on and stuff. So that album, man, did everything it was supposed to do.
Right. And it was one of those albums where if you're in radio promotions, you can work it to multiple formats. Just take a pick of your single, like, okay, I'm gonna go work this for R&B. I'm gonna go work this for top 40. I'm gonna work this record for rock. It was a win-win for all parties because it was an album where I can listen to it and be a fan and appreciate it. I can listen
Yep.
to this album, be a fan, and not have to have that stigma like, oh, it's the R&B album only. Oh, it's a pop album only. Oh, it's a rock leaning album only. It just kind of erased those invisible lines that the music industry tried to place on people in terms of
Yep.
likes and how just because you're this persuasion, you're not supposed to like that type of music. And I think Michael's
Yeah.
Thriller erased those barriers.
It did, man, because that album had different layers. And people don't realize this, you know, Michael was very conscious of the type of music he, you know, had on his album. Because when I listened to the songs that was supposed to be on the album, and I'd be like, you know what, it makes sense because people don't realize he recorded over 500 songs, man, to pick what would be perfect for that album. 500 songs to jot it down to die. That's saying something because uh, each song off of Thriller had different layers. I mean, Baby Mine, Wanna Be Starting Something, Pretty Young Thing, Thriller, Beat It, Human Nature, Lady My Life. You know, each song in the album was different. And the album make you feel some type of way and stuff. Artists of today that's independent, they don't even think like that, man. I mean, no offense to to these independent artists that's been around for a decade or so, but when they record a lot of songs, they don't ever think like that because as an artist, you know, you got to think it from a fan perspective and a business perspective because if you want people to buy your records, you got to think like, okay, I recorded a song. I want to create a song where a fan got to get it right away. Fans got to have it. That's how Michael Jackson felt because, his thing was, I just can't make this any type of song. The song has to make sense, not just to me, but to the public and stuff. And that's what it's all about. You got a hit when you got a 2-year-old dancing to your music as well as a 7-year-old dancing to your music. That's saying something.
Right, because the opening track off of Thriller, I believe, is Want to Be Starting Something, and it just immediately hits you right in the face. And to me, that's the key when you make a record. I say have your strong songs up at the front. You can maybe put your album cuts, your filler records towards the middle, then end it with some more strong records because that album clocked in at a little over 42 minutes, but you can listen to it 42 minutes straight, and it was no drop off, strong. It was not a time where you felt like you wanted to skip a track.
Right. Yeah, because artists don't think like that because especially when you put an album together, you want to start off with a powerful track. If you go in a ballad direction, I always say that start off with an intro to lead up to that. You know what I'm saying? Or lead up to a powerful track because you just start with a powerful track, it people want to get up and dance or whatever, And Michael was definitely a visionary to put that together, man, and to have every song, man, take on it the way it is, because when people think of Thriller, they think about that short film as far as the title of it. But Thriller means that every song is a thriller. Every song's going to hit you left and right to left. You're like, oh man, like I can't skip over one song. Every song is bad, man. I love it. So every song, off that album is a thriller. Not the self-title, not because the track on there, but you want every song. It's like if you made an album called So Amazing, you want every song sound so amazing because it make you feel some type of way. And Thriller, it hit different. Mm-hmm. And see, artists don't think like that, man. When you're an artist, you want people to, you want to leave people with a great impression about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's and Yeah, you said he recorded about 500 songs or more before narrowing it down to the final nine. And to just think of all the vocal outtakes that have been released with the reissues and all of the extended editions. And I don't know if you've seen this recently. Somebody had posted the vocal outtakes from Thriller when he was lining up the vocals for the chorus and the bridge of the song, and
Yeah.
how he did all the multi-tracking himself to do all the individual parts and combine it all together where it sounded as one. To think about how talented he was, to where I'm going to produce my own vocals and have it so to where you would get the effect where it's a choir where it's just me.
Because I was looking at one of his interviews with the engineer guy. I can't think of his name. He passed away, God rest his soul.
Bruce Sweden.
With Sweden, and he said we was making a Thriller. He said the song "Beat It." He said, "Man, not Beat It. I mean, Billy J. They went over like close to 800 times off of certain words because he want to make sure certain words fit for that song and stuff. It's like being a rapper and you say, like you say a punchline. It's like saying like if I made a song and I'm over here dissing somebody, but like, like I put two shots to your dog because I'm a true vet. Talk about the dog, take it to the veterinarian, but instead of saying in that type of proper way, I'm saying in a street way and stuff. And with Michael, he want to make sure that each word, fit it perfectly and stuff. And to go over and run it back, man, he was definitely conscious about that. I don't think artists even, artists of today don't even think like that, man. Some don't even get close to it. And that's only maybe a sprinkle, but to be conscious of every word you say. I mean, because Michael want to make sure, he had high energy, making sure each track, each part of the word stood out, and that's incredible, man. To even think like, because see, Michael was very, critical to how he was. And sometimes as an artist, you gotta be judgmental who you are. You gotta be your own worst critic, or what you think should be out there, or we think it should be added on or removed. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, he definitely wasn't the type where he was putting out stuff just to put out. He was very conscious of what he was putting out and very, very meticulous in the studio, which for some people could be almost obsessive to where you never feel like it's enough. But if
Yeah.
you want to be great at what you do, you gotta be that way. Beyonce's that way. Prince was that way. We could go down the list of all the greats who were that anal with everything that they did, that it just had to be perfect to them before it comes out, because you don't want to put out no trash, because you're thinking about, hey, I'm making a masterpiece and somebody's spending their hard-earned money to buy this album, so I want to make sure that is right.
Yeah, and some artists about today, man, they're like tone deaf. It's like they see what you and I see is the opposite, and stuff. Because like whenever a song is sent to me by email, and I could tell if it's a hit or miss the way an artist delivered, and I give them my feedback. And if I feel like a song is not living up to what it's supposed to be, then I get my feedback and I tell them what they need to run it back or need to add or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But if a song sounds like it's on point, I'm like, okay, that's the go. But you got to be cautious about yourself, because they like, you call yourself an artist, you put it out there on social media, so and people want to see what the hype is about that.
Mhm. Right. And the one thing that I like that Michael did a lot was he was a willing collaborator with people, like, Quincy Jones did, of course, Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad. You had Steve Porcaro, who co-wrote Human Nature with Michael. Steve Porcaro from the group Toto. I believe
Yeah,
James Ingram, I believe he co-wrote PYT. I believe he did.
yeah. PYT, he did that.
Yeah, he did that. So Michael allowed people to come in with different ideas and say, hey, let's all make this a collaborative effort. So what do you think it was about the magic that him and Quincy did on that album that just really sent it to the moon? Coming off
You
the
know,
success that they did on Off the Wall.
yeah, I think, because people was doubting him, and that happens to a lot of artists as well. You're not as good as you was your first one, and And Michael kept hearing that so much, and Michael was like, you know what, I'm gonna show them, I can outdo what I did on the last one. And that pretty much set him to motion, to really take it to the next level and stuff. And to have a grade of team writers, engineers and stuff, and he proved that he made them look dumb and stuff, because after he topped Off the Wall, he had nothing to prove after that. He did everything what was supposed to happen and stuff. And for the sales to take off like the way it did, man, that's crazy because nobody think that album was gonna do what it's supposed to do. I mean, only God knows that type of answer and stuff. But I think Michael was so driven, when what's his name? Jackie said that Michael used to write on the wall. Michael was gonna sell 100 million copies. He was determined for it to sell that many, and for him to be credible like that, that's saying a lot.
Right. He had a vision, and like you mentioned earlier, the album spent 37 weeks at #1, and it broke records in terms of awards. It won 8 Grammys, then it won 8 American Music Awards, and I believe there was an article or something done either at the time or a little bit after that 1 in 3 homes owned that album. We'll never see the likes of that again, where 1 in 3 homes owned that album. It was not only to where it was a US phenomenon, it was a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, just go back and look at the clips of Michael going to different places around the world and how you had to get security by that country's army.
Yep.
I mean, that country's army, not no regular security guards. I'm talking about the army of whatever country he was visiting. That's how big Michael was.
Yeah, Michael was like God, man, because you go in any country, I mean, any country, they know who Michael Jackson is. You name any artist, they probably be like, who? Michael was well known, like saying, like, do you know God? Do you know Jesus? And they would say, yeah, that's how big Michael was. I mean, he was just so phenomenon, about that. It's crazy, how that album took off like the way it did and stuff, because I mean, that album, man, it's crazy because MTV did a whole thing on Michael Jackson, and when they were showing like the behind the scenes of Thriller, and then they did like a whole replay thing of it and stuff. That's when magazines started stepping their game up, more television networks started stepping their game up, and everything. Because what was it, 1984? So this is before the Victory Tour took off. He won a Guinness Book World Record at that time, like the early part of '84 and stuff. And man, that was crazy, man. To be the first Black artist to ever do that, man.
Right. And you mentioned the Victory Tour, how that album pretty much set the stage for that. But I know there was some controversy with that tour because they didn't sell individual tickets. It was done via a block system, like a lottery system. And you had to almost be in a drawing to get those tickets. Don King, I believe, was the promoter of the tour at the time. And then they landed that sponsorship with Pepsi. And how when that tour hit, you had the brothers plus Michael, who was at his height, Thriller at his height. So you're getting a win-win where, hey, I get to see the brothers back together, but I'm also gonna get the Michael Jackson show with Thriller cuts in between the group numbers.
Yeah, because, and I hate to say it, like, no offense to the album Victory, but people was looking forward to Michael's performing the Thriller album. That's how big it was, because I felt like the Victory Tour and the album got overshadowed by that. I felt like the Victory album could have happened maybe like in '85 or something like that, because when the album is over successful, the album's gonna stay hot like that for like 2 or 3 years or whatever and stuff, because from the end of '82 all the way to '84 was all about Michael and stuff. And the album was still on fire, man. But at the same time, I'm glad that Michael did perform those records from Thriller, because people got a chance to see the magic happen. And Pepsi, man, they was on the left and right, man. I remember he was on Word Up magazine. He did a cover of FCS's magazine. He was dressed like in a crowd. This is before Michael was even called the King of Pop. And he dressed up as like the Black King, in that cover. And that cover was powerful, man. Especially it being an all-Black magazine. That's how huge it was. People don't even talk about that. So he was mentioned as the King of Pop one time through the Thriller era. but it didn't really happen until the bad era. That's when they started calling it that. But yeah, I mean, for a man that wasn't even 30 yet, man. I mean, just whooping everybody's ass on charts, man. That's huge, man.
Right. And the thing, coming from Gary, Indiana, and Gary, Indiana, if you know, it ain't the easiest place to grow up in, especially back during that time period. Gangs was running around, but Mr. Joe Jackson had a vision for all the kids. Like, hey, this is gonna be our ticket out. And
Yeah.
he saw it with his boys and later Janet, and how he could say, hey, I produced one of the biggest stars in the world.
Yeah, man. I tell you, though, Joe had a visionary, man. Regardless of people say about him, he had a vision. That dude was so far ahead of his time, man. He people say the woman say, but he was the type of person, he was like, let me deal with the BS. Y'all focus on being an artist. He said, I got the rest and stuff. And he took care of them, until they broke free, saying from him. But if it was for Tito picking up that guitar, I don't think we would have had, what we had today with Michael Jackson or the Jackson Five, even Janet alone,
Mm.
even Jermaine and Reby and stuff, because it's crazy how Tito played the guitar and Joe's vision took off like the way it did. Two situations that went straight to orbit, man. And I tell you, man, when I didn't forget it was like, I think it was like 85, whatever. They called it Michael Mania, not 84. And man, you could not go nowhere, man. I mean, he was on Friday Night Videos. His videos was on there. They was playing his videos on American Bandstand, Soul Train. Solid Gold was still on. I mean, he was just everywhere, man. That's how powerful he was. I mean, and at that time, black kids, they were dressing up like him and stuff, having their, hair process and
Mm-hmm.
wearing the full of the beaded jackets and stuff.
Mm.
And at that time they had like the Michael Jackson contest and stuff. What else?
There was a Michael Dahl, I believe.
Oh yeah, Michael Dahl. And plus, he had his wax figure at that time and stuff, and then he had a second Star Walk of Fame as a solo artist, previous from his early work with his brothers. Uh, it's just crazy, man. I mean, just to see all that happen, his popularity went through the roof, bigger than it ever was and stuff.
Mm.
And just to see that, man, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, in your opinion, was there one cut that was on the outtakes that you felt could have made the final nine, or was it where you felt like it was right that that cut was left off and only issued out on the reissue?
Oh man, I tell you though, like no offense, looking back at Michael Jackson's estate, or even Michael was alive, he could have added Carousel on the
Yeah,
album.
I liked Carousel. It was a good album. Wasn't that written by Michael Sambello?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, it could have been on the album because I felt like that song there. I mean, it didn't necessarily have to be like a release single or anything like that. It could have been on that album because I feel like it fitted, for that
Mm.
track. For whatever reason, it wasn't even on there. I guess Michael was very conscious of what to put, not to put, on there. But I wish he could have had added on there. And I'm glad in a way that, I mean, I like the song Sunset Driver. It's a great song, but it was too funky. And I was like, that song should have been on Off the Wall. It sounded more like an off the wall type of track and stuff.
Mm.
And but just Carousel, that should have been like the last final cut, I believe, and stuff. I think that would have been like 10 tracks,
Yeah,
you
that would
know.
have been 10. It would have been after The Lady in My Life. And let's talk about that track, because for me, that's my favorite track off of that album.
Yeah, later in my life. You know what, man? I tell you, dude, I wish Michael could have shot a video for that
Facts.
because that song is funny. Even though it was popular then, but it became more successful, once the internet came involved and everything else. That song's still in Quiet Storm rotation of different Cyrus XMs and everything else. And I said, man, have Michael would have shot a short film for that song went number one, of course. It would have took off to the next level. But with Michael, he said in one of his interviews, what his biggest mistake was, he wished he would have shot more videos for Thriller. And he said he made up, he made sure that when he did the Bad album, he shot a lot of videos. So that was kind of like, what could have been for Thriller. But yeah, Lady My Life, man, was dope, man, because that's everybody's favorite track. People like Dio sung that, Usher sung that, different artists that cover that, man. That's a great song. I was shocked that song never was a single for whatever reason, man. And yeah, Michael, man, he put so much energy into that, man. That's one thing Michael, singing, rock or pop songs and stuff. When it comes to R&B, man, he finesses it, man. He takes it to a different level.
Yep, that's definitely his wheelhouse. And LL Cool J and Boyz II Men sampled "Lady in My Life" for "Hey Lover." And if he would have shot a video for that album, it would have been kind of almost similar to, without the Godfather storyline, and Jermaine's "Do What You Do" video. Very sensual,
Oh,
very seductive, very
yeah, I believe
flirtatious,
so, man.
very playful.
Yeah, I believe so, because had he would have done that, man, that would have been a great video. Michael's vision, I could just only imagine what that would have did and stuff like that, man. And know for a fact, Video Song would play the hell out of it. That probably would have been on Midnight Love.
Midnight Love too.
Yeah, that would have been on Midnight Love, man, and stuff.
Right.
And, but man, I tell you, man, record labels, man, they make bad business decisions, because my thing, like, okay, we all got 3 videos out, Beat It, Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller, but they should put a video out. I mean, Human Nature, it should be a music video for Human Nature, say Later My Life, Pretty Young Thing. I mean, what I'm saying, and other song, Baby By, should have been a video for that too. So I don't know why it wasn't, because those songs, man, like Later My Life and all those, they have so much video vision appeal to it. So I don't know why it never worked out there like that.
Yeah, I mean, just go ahead and shoot a video for your whole album, because that's what Beyonce did for Lemonade, where she shot a video for every single song off of that album. Michael had that same power the way he could have did that with Thriller, where I'm just gonna do a video for all the songs.
Yeah, yep. And that's what I like about when he did the Bad album. He shot like there to almost every video, except for I can't just stop loving you, and the other song, Good Friends with Stevie Wonder, off the Bad album. But yeah, man, I tell you, dude, Thriller, man, the album was big, but I wish he could have shot with videos for that, because the album was a monster, man.
Right.
So it's like, once you start something, it's hard to hold back. But I think, see, back in those days, artists was limited to what they could put out compared to how it is now.
You still had to go through those gatekeepers, and they're approved or denied what can get put out. And I felt had Michael's label not blocked the release of "Tell Me I'm Not Dreaming" as a single, that would have been huge. If that cut would have been on Thriller in addition to Jermaine's album, I think that was off Dynamite that Tell Me I'm Not Dreaming was on.
Yeah,
Dynamite. Because Michael was already on the track.
Yeah, it was weird though, because like, okay, it's like they gave it a green light for him to say with Paul McCartney, but then we'll give him a green light till I'm Not Dreaming with his brother. Then it makes sense. Even though we're number 1 on the dance charts for like 6 weeks, but still, it should have been an official release single. They could have shot a video for that, man. I never understood that, man. It just something about no matter what Jermaine did, they always try to find ways to segregate him and stuff. And they do that to like a lot of artists, man, that even though like you're not like the lead singer, but they'll find ways to kind of halt you back. And that happens to a lot of people, man.
Right, yeah, because sidebar, Jermaine's solo career was no slouch. I mean, Jermaine had hits. His albums were dope. And then, of course, when Janet came in, did her thing, and then as we saw in the documentary that she released, she stated that, hey, if y'all gonna go back and do a reunion tour, I'll open up for you all. It was to where it wasn't no sibling rivalry amongst all of them. It was where, hey, my success is your success, because I'm sure Michael, of course, was Janet's biggest fan. There was a video of him dancing to, I believe, "Miss You Much" or "The Knowledge," and he said those were his two favorite records of Janet's to dance to.
Yeah, because I tell you, man, that 1995 performance with Michael performed on MTV. I wish that Michael could have had performed with Janet, and they did it scream together. Man, that'd been so huge, dude. I tell you, man, that would have, even though they won a lot of awards and stuff for Scream, but I wish they could have performed together. That performance, that would have been epic. And the label, man, they try to make them as rivals and stuff, against each other and stuff. And Michael and Janet, man, that bond as brothers and sisters, man, was like one of a kind. But
Mm-hmm.
I would think they could have had done that for them. And the thing about Michael, was like he had the power, but it's sad how they try to shut him down, make him go against his sister. To me, once again, Tom Tola, all them, man, they all to blame to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the 2300 Jackson Street album I felt could have been promoted more. Why wasn't she released as a single off of that
Yeah,
album? Produced by Teddy, Randy sang lead on that record, and that Randy's in the Gypsies album, highly slept on. Should have been bigger.
it should be bigger, man. It just, man, I'm gonna tell you, man, it's weird, man. I think at that time, people looked at his sister brothers like, oh, well, they not, it's like they took him as a joke, like how they did Latoya. And Randy's a dope artist
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I mean, when I listened to Jermaine's album, You Said, that album was dope, man, produced by LA Babyface and Daryl Simmons. Songs like I'm a Dream, what's the song? I Dream, New Jack Swing,
Mm-hmm.
dope, man. And just for some reason, man, don't get our love and stuff. And of course, these labels, they give you, they will lie to you. It's like a relationship. Like a girl tells you, I'll give you the world, and then turn around and you end up with bad results and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely, the whole divide and conquer where, these labels, like you said, they say that they love you, they behind you, but as soon as something goes wrong, they'll that's why it's important to have strong people in your corner, especially if your family, everybody got to be tight like this, and you can't have outside sources do this.
Yeah. And that's crazy, man, because I think the label realized, it's like, okay, you allow Michael and Janet be together, but you would let them, like whatever Michael did his parts, you would let Janet do her parts. I never understood that, man. I never understood it at all, man. To me, that's a pretty slap in the face, But running back to Thriller, ever since I started doing R&B when I left hip hop alone in 2016, I swear, man, you look on any charts, man, Thriller is still there, man. I mean, it's on the charts no matter who the artist is, no matter who hot it is, it's always in that Billboard 200 or the top 30, album street platform on the R&B side or on the pop side. It's crazy, man. That album's still burning heat, man.
It's still top amongst greatest albums of all time. And with the younger generation now, like kids that were born in the 2000s, do you think the legacy of that album will still stand the test of time with the musical taste of the younger generation being totally different than our taste and how things are now consumed in short sound bites with things made for TikTok and social media where it's very instant? Because I would doubt kids of today will have the ability to listen to an album straight through for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that album will still run. The album still running today. I believe that the album was still, it's crazy, but you mentioned that too though, because you got kids that never grew up with Michael, but they doing all his dance moves, or they be inspired by him. That album will resonate, in my opinion, because like you said, the TikTok videos, people do covers of it. People do covers through SoundCloud and everything else. Yeah, that album was still, even after you and I are gone, the album was still, resonate. Because for what that album did, man, it just, I tell you, man, it just one of its kind, man. It's hard to put in words, man.
Yeah, because with my son, born in '08, my wife and I we were watching, I believe it was a Michael video. It was a live performance. And he was like, what is this? And was like, "This is Michael Jackson," and we're all happy and excited about it. He was like, "Oh," but then I had to take into account, okay, born in '08, Michael passed the year after. So,
Yeah.
like you said, these kids, they didn't grow up with him. They only know of him from parents' memories, grandparents' memories, and what they find on the internet. So they can't really understand the
Right.
magnitude and just the big of an impact that he was.
Yeah, because it's funny, man, because this generation, and I see little stuff, man. People are like, oh, this person's buried in Michael Jackson. I'm gonna say this, no offense to Beyonce. She's an amazing artist, but she's not on a Michael Jackson level. I'm sorry. Because for one, until you do the moonwalk, until you do the lead, until you do the robot, until you had the same amount of album sales that Michael Jackson had and broke barriers, talk to me. But come on, man. I'm not worried about no beehives. I'm not worried about none of that because that's a problem. Because the problem with, this industry is so racism, and then the bad part about our people, we'll play it too and be like, but damn, is she or he better than Michael Jackson? Come on now. That to me that's a slap in the face because for one, and this ain't got to do with Beyonce, just the people, man, that start that crap. Just like when they try to put Prince and Michael, against each other. It's like there's certain things Michael can do, Prince can do. There's certain things that Prince can do that Michael can't do. For one, Prince is a bad artist. You
Mhm.
know, he plays guitar. He does a lot of bad stuff. Michael, he's an entertainer. He could dance, he could do all little things and stuff like that. They are two different people. Why try to have them going against each other? It's like trying to say Michael LeBron. Trying to say is LeBron better than Michael Jackson. I mean Michael Jordan for one. Michael Jordan, he will fight you to the end until he gets that win. Michael Jordan, he's a beast and stuff.
Mhm.
And but anyway, but like I was saying that it's not against Beyonce, but she's not on Michael Jackson level. The only artist that's compared to Michael Jackson is Sister Janet. She done broke half of his records, you know, and she's very similar to him. So how
Mhm.
can you say, is Justin Timberlake the next king of pop, or is Beyonce the next Michael Jackson? Come on, man. This industry, man, I tell you, man, it's a joke, and it's sad because we allow these bozos come in the game and destroy us for all the wrong reasons. Stuff. That's why I hate about stuff like that.
Yeah, because I believe it was Rolling Stone UK. They had labeled Harry Styles, formerly of One Direction, as the new king of pop, and that caused a fury to so much so to where Taj had to come out and say, "Don't associate that title with him because that title is only reserved for my uncle." You
Yep.
know, the king of pop, the one true king of pop. But like you mentioned, Beyonce, Chris Brown, Usher, Omarion, Bobby Brown, all of them were students of Michael,
Yep.
followed Michael's blueprint.
Yeah, Michael birthed all those black artists because when you think about Bobby Brown, at that time, the Adobe Crew era, he was like, up there, you know, the, the whole Michael Jackson, when it comes to great performance, be the artist and stuff like that. Chris Brown, and shouts to Chris Brown to put the air, like Chris Brown said, I'm not better than Michael Jackson. So, Michael Jackson, he's on a different universe and stuff like that because people don't pay attention. When you look at I put it like this way: you never hear nobody say, "Oh man, you see what Beyonce did? Oh man, that was incredible, man." I mean, what you do just shake her hips and that was it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's ridiculous, man. Because like with Michael put his whole energy into it. I mean, anytime you have people want to do the robot, want to do the moonwalk in the lead, that's saying something.
Mm-hmm.
You got people dressing like you all the time, that's saying something. But people want to act like you, that's saying something. I'd rather hear anybody say, "Oh man, you see what Beyonce did? Oh man, that's amazing stuff." And, it's just crazy, man. I hate that and stuff. Not take away from her, but Beyonce's built different. When I think about Beyonce, I think about Tina Turner.
Mm-hmm.
with the blonde dye in her hair and the way she dresses, the way she carries herself. I think about Tina Turner. I don't see when I look at her, I don't see her as like, oh man, that's Michael Jackson. No, I see her as like a second addition to Tina Turner, and
Mm.
that's where people forget it. It's like she's not the next Michael Jackson. I can see you call her next Tina Turner, but she's not the next Michael Jackson. Y'all need to stop capping. Go to Dr. Bizer's, whatever, and get some new glasses and get your hair fixed, please.
Mm. Man, but I'm thinking had he would have lived and put on This Is It, boy, I don't think there would have been no place in the world that would hold the amount of people that would have came for that show if
Oh
that would have
my god.
came to fruition.
Oh my god, man. If Michael was in better condition and stuff, he would have done This Is It. Oh man, that would have been phenomenal, man. That would have been phenomenal, man. That would have been, and then like the outfit he was gonna wear, for that tour. Oh man, that was gonna be incredible, man. Just to see that alone and stuff. Yeah, that would have been massive.
Yeah, that definitely been a residency show where, like KC said in Phoenix, take my money, my house, and my car. Some people would have risked it all, dumped out their entire savings. I don't care if it's a nosebleed. I'm going to go see this show.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the thing too. Because Mike was at a point where he got tired of going, different cities. I think after This Is It, I think his goal was to do a Las Vegas residency. You know what I'm saying, and just do shows there, but have them spaced out and stuff like that. That would have been incredible, man, just to see that. You know what I'm saying? Where
Mm-hmm.
he would have to travel this place and that place. He could just be there wherever, how long he wanted to be and stuff. That would be huge, man. Just to see, how incredible that, like what could have been and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, and stuff.
Right. And just a sidebar, real quick. What's your take on Vegas now really welcoming urban acts to the strip for the residencies? Because, we're seeing Bruno's short residencies at Park MGM. You have Usher's residency at Caesars. I believe New Edition is working on a residency out in Vegas. And it kind of seems like the tide is turning to where you're not really seeing just your pop and country acts on the strip anymore. You're seeing a lot more urban acts, and of course, Boyz II Men is already out there making crazy money with their residency. So, what's your take now on Vegas really welcoming urban acts with open arms for residencies?
It's easy to say what took so long, but I'm glad that artists are getting a chance to, finally be accepted and stuff because here it is, New Edition, Bruno Mars, all these artists, man, they done made history. They did a lot of amazing stuff, and I'm glad they finally get it. Just do New Edition should have been had a Las Vegas residency, but of course, to have the right type of agency around them, the right type of team around them, not these groupies and stuff. But that's a whole different conversation, for the topic on that part. But I'm glad they finally, these artists finally get it just due because these artists, man, they done, made their mark. They got done approved and stuff. And I'm glad that all of us finally get a Las Vegas residency because they work so hard, man.
Mhm.
And what makes it so bad, half of artists that we are a fan of, here it is, New Edition. They don't even have, they're not even Rock and Hall of Fame yet. Not even nominated.
That's coming.
Yeah, and here it is. They the only group to, as what they be a number one as a group, they was number one as solo. Every last one of them went number one. And that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is coming for New Edition. I think Bobby was just on TMZ and said that they're going to be going back out on the road in March because that's the one thing about New Edition. They're like blocks where when they're all together, all six, they can do their thing, but you can break them apart, all go off on tour as separate entities, and they're still just as effective.
Yeah. And that's one thing about New Edition because, when it comes to boy bands, when I think about New Edition, I said this on a post and stuff. The Jackson Five gave birth to New Edition, what New Edition is today, because the way the Jackson Five affected Black kids to be what you want to be, the same way New Edition affected a lot of Black kids in the '80s to be what you want to be. To be a great artist, or you want to start a group and stuff like that. To be inspired. And I'm glad New Edition get it just due. I think it's time. I can't wait till they get a Rock Hall of Fame because once they get that Rock Hall of Fame, they got nothing to prove. You know, case closed. You know, game over. You know what I'm saying? On to the next one. And I'm glad that they will finally, get their flowers because, they definitely deserve it. They definitely deserve, their flowers and stuff because, I mean, you go on Facebook, you type in New Edition, so many fan pages, man, from business pages, group pages. I mean, it's everywhere, man.
I mean, they are an institution. They are the culture because Candy Girl not beat it off of the R&B singles chart when that came out, and that was doing Michael at his height. Five
Yep.
black boys from Boston, later Johnny Gill from DC joined, and how all six of them changed the face of not only R&B but pop culture. And I also got to mention this too, Anita Baker, Vegas residency as well. And I think a lot of people kind of slept on how huge she was because she was just as huge. That Rapture album, crazy.
Yeah, man. I mean, she won multiple Grammys, won multiple Soul Train Awards and stuff. The thing about, labels and stuff, man, they market you only on one side, but not the whole global. It was like she had like one album that went number one on the pop side was that album, Give You the Best That I Got.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that these, that's the thing too. I said it so many times. One thing about being a black artist, and one thing I hate about it too, because so many black YouTube bloggers, they play into that stuff too, is that, okay, it's one thing you go number one or the top 10 or top 20 or Hot 100. They'll treat a black artist like they're a one-hit wonder. Here it is. Freddie Jackson got 10 number one R&B hits. Nobody ever talks about that. Stevie Wonder and Richard Franklin got 20 number one R&B hits. They're the only one got the most. Nobody ever talks about that, even though they very successful, but they never talk about that, and all these artists got so many number one R&B hits, they never talk about that. But they treat R&B as R&B will always be the stepchild. And that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And R&B came out first before there was even a pop. So,
right.
It's crazy, man, how that is.
Always the bridesmaid, but never the bride.
Yeah, because I put it this way. If you ask a white fan, what's your favorite song by H-Town, they would say Knockin' the Boots. But if you ask a black fan, what's your favorite song by H-Town, they would say, what's the song, Part-Time Lover, They Lie Between Love and Hate, all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because that's kind of how it is like that because, labels, they play into that BS,
right.
as well. To me, I don't think it's cool. Because my thing like is, if you're going to push one song heavy, push all of it.
Right. And that's the one thing, another sidebar that I appreciated about New Kids on the Block is that they always let it be known. New Edition started this for us. If it wasn't for them, it would be no us. Because some people don't know, New Kids were signed to the R&B division at Columbia. They were marketed as an R&B group. Please Don't Go Girl initially was only seen on BET. But then it wasn't until a pop station in Tampa started playing them. That was when the whole pop phenomenon came along. But that was where all five of them were always like, hey, New Edition started it. We're just doing the same thing that they're doing on the pop side, but always making it known that, hey, our roots are this. It didn't start with us.
Yeah, because, they birthed them out and stuff. And they never want to give a black artist credit of what a black artist, done started and stuff, because that's what trips me out about that. Because I'm glad that, the New Kids on the Block always praise New Edition. You guys too, man. Because how can you say, oh man, they're the greatest boy band ever out of Boston? Wait a minute now, New Edition came first out of Boston. So, every solo artist, every group is the kickstart of birth of how artists are today and stuff. How can you sit here and forget about who did what? To me, that's a bunch of BS, man. I can't respect no individual sit here and not mention who started this and stuff. And that's the real truth, man. I can't stand they do it, but that's what I like about New Kids on the Block because they don't forget who inspired them, man. So yeah, and New Kids on the Block are the second edition to New Edition.
The pop counterpart to New Edition, and to think both of those groups, Maurice Starr discovered New Edition. Maurice Starr created New Kids. A black man created the biggest
Yep.
pop group in the world, a black man. So let's give Maurice Starr his credit and his flowers. But tying that back in to Michael Jackson, one last thing I want to ask you before we get on out of here. If you can sum up Michael Jackson's legacy and the impact of the Thriller album, how would you sum it up?
Timeless. You know, all the reason why I say that because you can say a classic, but to me it's timeless because here it is to this day, man. Michael's whole career alone, you know, he inspired so many kids, man. I mean, from a little boy to a grown man. I mean, when it comes to having conversations of, you know, who's the greatest black artist of all time, you know, Michael's in that top five, you know. And so majority of the time he'd be number one, you know, besides whoever they like and stuff, you know. When it comes to albums, people always debate between Thriller and Off the Wall all the time, you know, which album's better than who and stuff. Michael been a heavy influence on a lot of artists, man, because whenever I interview an artist, they always mention Michael Jackson, or they'll mention his brothers, you know, be influenced on them and stuff. So Michael's always mentioned, you know, throughout, you know, the globe and stuff. You know, the impact that Michael did, he was a social media before social media. Because as a kid, you know, growing up in the 80s and a teenager by the 90s, you couldn't go nowhere without seeing Michael's face on TV, magazines. No matter if it was good or bad, Michael was like damn near everywhere, you know, growing up. But Michael, man, he's timeless, man. I mean, you can say classic, but classic, you know, classic to me is like a one-hit wonder perspective. Timeless is longevity. You know, see, like you go to family cookouts, somebody playing Michael Jackson. You go to somebody's birthday party, somebody playing Michael Jackson. Somebody's in the car, somebody playing Michael Jackson. You know, somebody clean up the house or whatever, somebody playing Michael Jackson. Michael's everywhere. You know, you go to these little elementary schools, was it where they do like the little performance and stuff, tribute artists and stuff. You know, they playing Michael Jackson. Some kid doing a moonwalk, not just here in America, but like a whole universe. Somebody dressing up as Michael Jackson, no matter what you're black, white, Mexican, whatever. Somebody's, you know, Michael's phenomenon, man.
Yep, definitely well said. So any current projects you got, shout outs you want to give, and also plug all your socials, bro, before we wrap.
Okay, yeah, man. Just want to say, you know, shouts to the fans, man. You know, RB So Fake TV. To reach 40,000 followers on Facebook, man. You know, I ain't put no money behind it, no box or nothing. All that's organic. You know, shouts to the fans for always showing love, even the legends too, as well, man. You know, they show me love. I don't want to say their names, maybe like I'm showing favoritism. But anyway, what I got going on next year, like around spring or summer, I will be doing album release parties, DJing for certain independent artists, and I will have my first official concert, you know, here in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't want to mention the names, but as few that I got in mind, I'm putting together. But RB So Fake TV, man, will be on Roku soon. I guarantee, man. So, you know, bring back that video soul, man, of how it used to be back in the day. So, people call me the Donnie Simpson, man, you know, of this generation. I appreciate that. But I think like this, you know, I don't want to be like him, but at the same time, you know, I appreciate people that I remind them of that. So I'm blessed, man.
Yeah, man. My boy stay putting in the work. And you can catch this interview wherever you stream podcasts and also on YouTube, youtube.com/beyond the album cover. And to stay updated with all things related to the podcast, go to facebook.com/beyond the album cover. Once again, my brother from another mother, Mr. Solar Fed of R&B Solar Fed TV. Bro, thank you once again for coming on.
No problem, man. You know, let's do this again, man.
Bet.